Hey, Jay Allen from My True North, and this afternoon I want to talk to you about the value of your time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that we're all busy people, so I'll try and keep this as succinct as possible. But I was pretty blown away when I worked out the numbers for myself, having had recently a call with somebody with whom we did work a month ago. So I wanted to quickly share with you the value of your time. Now, we've probably all heard the expression don't do £10 tasks at the expense of £1,000 opportunities. But what does that really mean? Well, the chances are that you are already doing some things in your business that really you shouldn't be doing. That there ought to be other people in your business, either now or at some stage in the future, that should be doing more of the doing. And the chances are that by the very fact that you start watching this might imply that there is still elements that you're in business where you're still the business operator as opposed to the business owner, as Michael Gerber talks about in the E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited. The importance of being able to have workers in the business that you're able to then manage and lead and develop, as opposed to continually either doing everything yourself, or even if you have got a team around you, they're a team of support arms that are keeping you central to the business, that you're the main fee earner in the business, and as a result, if you stop, it all stops. Well, I wanted to quickly share with you something that happened late last week about an incident that occurred a month ago. Let's just put things into context. You've probably noticed and seen that earlier this year, Amanda and I, my wife and soulmate, if nothing else, both in business and in personal life, my wife and I finally came together after much pressure from people saying, when are you going to do something together? And ran an event called Fusion. The fusion of my experience, knowledge, and background, along with hers, that we put together a one-day seminar where customer journey meets business mastery. And we invited people from my network and from Amanda's networks to come together where we could share thoughts and ideas in a tailored, very bespoke and in-depth workshop for the people on that day's seminar. Now, there were 8 segments to the day, 4 of which I delivered and 4 which Amanda delivered, and they all dovetailed together to be able to ensure that you really maximise every opportunity to be able to look after your customers well and to attract some of the right people to the business, and then how to be able to maximise that to be able to properly scale up your business. And a couple of the comments from people that were already involved in the day wrote back to us in the feedback session and said it was an event like they'd never seen before. They'd never experienced something quite like that we put on. And that made Amanda feel and I feel really proud, because that was the whole intent of putting and launching the day ons together, to ensure that we delivered something that wasn't comparable to anything that anybody had ever been to. And the way we were able to do that is, first of all, we didn't simply sell lots of bums on seats and then stand up there and self-pontificate about all of the stuff that you could do or that we're doing in our business. One, we limited the amount of people very significantly to just a few people on the course. We had a short cut-off period before we closed the doors, which then subsequently allowed Amanda and I to be able to do a significant amount of research to each and every person that attended, to ensure that although there were 8 subjects that we wanted to cover, that we could tailor the content specifically to the people in the room. And by doing so, we were able to ensure that every example was relevant to the people in the room and tailored in such a way that they could take it away and implement it there and then. However, the other things that we chose not to do was there was no selling. There was no upsell or cross-sell. There was nothing to buy on the day. We didn't turn around and say, now you've done a day with us, now you've got to sign into a program or some form of something else. We simply said, this is a standalone opportunity to witness and experience us working together in service to the people in the room. And like I say, there was no upsell. It was simply a case of, we want to be here to support you on your journey, to be able to enhance the customer journey whilst maximising the opportunity for you to do so in your business. And the only other thing that we did of real significance is we tailored the day, and therefore we made sure that every single aspect of it was specific to the people in the room, and then with no with no upsell, but some follow-up. There was some accountability. We said to everybody at the end of the day, we did a long Q&A session to be able to ensure that every question was answered. And then towards the end of the day, we said, and we'd like to understand exactly what is it that you're going to do as a result of being here today, to ensure that this isn't just one another of those shelf development courses, that it's actually something that you're going to go away and implement and make a big impact for both you and your business. And to do so, we're going to have a follow-up session in 4 weeks' time, which was last week, where we can check in with you and find out as to what it is that you've done and the impact that that's had, and then answer any other final questions that you might have with regards to, well, I tried this and it didn't quite work the way I expected it to. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? Or can you go into, just to be able to ensure that you walk away with everything that you need to be able to enhance everything that you do from that day forward. Now, we had that session late last week on Zoom for the people that attended Fusion 1. And whilst Amanda and I were keen to be of service to ensure that the people on the course had got everything that they needed, I've got to be honest, I was absolutely blown away when we took some feedback from just one of the people who'd attended the course. He was able to summarise in very quick succession the impact that being on the course had had for both him and his business. He told us this elaborate story about how he'd taken one of the advisory notes, that some of the recommendations that we'd made from just one of the 8 sessions that were delivered that day, and implemented it straight away into the business. Like I say, there were 8 segments of the course, 4 of which I delivered and 4 which Amanda delivered. And of one of the sessions, and there were usually at least 1, sometimes 2 or even 3 big golden nugget takeaways of suggestions that you could make from each of the 8 segments, there was probably 16 or 20 different things that you could easily go away and do. And just one of those he'd gone away and implemented pretty much the following day. And yet 4 weeks later, reporting back, happily suggested that one of those had enabled him to be able to generate an additional £80,000 of additional revenue in the next 12 months with a new signed contract. Something that wasn't even on the ball game, wasn't even on the park, was no consideration or concept of being able to achieve that any time this year. He was able to be able to look differently at the business, identify an opportunity. We talk about opportunities and vulnerabilities within a business here within the ADDAZERO methodology, and we'd identified something that had been either overlooked or didn't think they were quite ready for, or would need to have lots more thought and idea and preparation before they could consider and implement. And we put all of the things in place over the course of one day that he'd gone away, and admittedly he's done the work and he's implemented all of the things that we talked about, but in less than 4 weeks has signed a new contract with a new client worth £80,000. Now, when you work that through as to how much he'd invested, not in us, but in himself, by being there on the day, by taking a day out of the business to reinvest in himself and personal professional development, that's a 36,000% ROI on the amount it cost him to attend Fusion. That's not 50% or 100% or 200% or 1,000%. 36,000% ROI based on how much it cost him to attend the day and the return from what he got from the day. Now, I don't know if you invest in gold or Bitcoin or Apple shares, whether you're going to get anything like that type of return. That's just insane. Talk about ADDAZERO, that's adding tens of zeros. Well, at least 5 zeros to the level of investment. Now, that's got to be worth anybody's consideration. And the good news is that some of the other people on the course were almost competing with regards to the types of investment that they'd made and the returns that they got also. There was not quite as close as 36,000% ROI, but it was such a delight to be able to hear the response that they've had from implementing the things that we talked about on the day, and we're already starting to see a significant and sustainable shift for both them and the business to be able to accelerate with the new clients, with a new sense of engagement, with a new sense of purpose, and some proper numbers to back it up. And the good news is we're going to do it again in the autumn. Now, don't get me wrong, we've both got a couple of really busy months over the next couple of months. I'm away to Tony Robbins to go and do Unleash the Power Within again next week, and therefore there's a lot of things going on in our own personal development, which has determined that diary clashes have prevented us from doing it perhaps as soon as we'd like to have done. But I'm delighted to say that we've got a date in the diary in October where we're going to run Fusion 2. We've picked up on all of the things that have been said in both the feedback and the positives and the considerations that Amanda and I have made with regards to what we felt went well and what could go even better. And we've implemented the Kaizen philosophy of incremental improvement into every single aspect of the first time that we've ever run it together. And now we're going to run it again in October. And so today's video was simply to ask, what is your time worth and how well are you investing it in you and your development? I'm going to quickly close by simply saying this. None of us know what we don't know. And yet it's often the bit that we don't know that is preventing us from making the biggest leap forward in our business. So my question would be, what would need to happen on that day in October if you were to come and join us for the day at Fusion 2? What would need to happen on that day for it to be the best investment that you've ever made in you and your development? God bless, take care. Please let me know as to whether you've watched this live by putting #live or putting #replay if you watched it in the replay. And also drop me a DM if you'd like to know more about something from the ADDAZERO vault that we could possibly deliver a live to and share with this community and audience. It's delightful to be able to see a couple of you are already putting live in the chat. Thanks very much for sharing some time and some thoughts with me this afternoon. It would be great if you were willing to be able to perhaps share this video into your network, that more people get the opportunity to be able to make that question about what's your time worth and what would it needs to be worth on the I think it's the 11th of October, maybe the 14th. It's certainly that week in October that we're going to run Fusion 2. But what would that one day needs to deliver for you in order for it to be the best day that you've ever spent learning how to accelerate the speed of both you and your business? God bless, take care, have a great rest of the day. I look forward to serving you again real soon.